Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
How are you? Hello.
Thanks so much for being here. Really excited to chat with you all. I think at the top of the hour, I just want to read through everyone's short bios so that folks who don't already follow you can get a sense of the work you do. So we're going to start with Susan. Hi, Susan.
Hi there. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Susan Friedman, CSP, Certified Speaking Professional, is an internationally recognized niche marketing expert and how-to coach who helps entrepreneurs, small business owners, and service professionals maximize opportunities to improve results and focus on building better relationships with customers, prospects, and advocates in the marketplace. A prolific author, Susan has written 14 books, including her international bestseller, Riches in Niches, How to Make It Big in a Small Market. She is the founder and owner of Aviva Publishing, a vanity publishing house dedicated to helping authors bring their book to market. She's also the host of the popular weekly podcast, Book Marketing Mentors, aimed at helping authors find the right market for their books. Awesome. We've also got Eric Vanderhoop. Hi, Eric.
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Eric is the #1 international best-selling author, ghost publisher, and book marketing coach. He helps struggling content creators navigate the often confusing publishing and book marketing process and shortens the time it takes to become a published author. More specifically, Eric helps writers, bloggers, and authors find their tribe, build their platform, share their message, and make a difference by transforming their message into a best-selling book. Hundreds of authors have benefited from his advice by publishing their own books successfully. Awesome. And we've also got Dewan. Hi, Dewan.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Dewan Bayney is an international touring artist, DJ, and passionate entrepreneur. Under his record label, Contact Records, he has signed many international artists, breaking through to the top 50 on Beatport with nearly every release. In addition to being a passionate artist and musician, Dewan is an established entrepreneur, owning a successful publishing company, as well as a mature software company serving 500 plus clients every month. Dewan is the go-to marketing and business development consultant to multiple six-figure brands, as well as the marketing director and partner to a multi-million-dollar real estate company in Vancouver. Awesome. And last but not least, Sean Murphy. Least but not last. Sean Murphy. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Sean Murphy is the co-founder and CEO of Switch and Shift, where he focuses on helping companies switch and shift their leadership and business into the social age. He loves to passionately explore the space where business and humanity intersect and is a promoter of workplace optimism. He truly believes work can be a source of joy. Apart from Switch and Shift, he is also an author and top-ranked leadership blogger. Awesome. So, thank you guys so much for being here. I see a lot of synergies in the kind of work that you do, and I want to get started with Susan. I want to ask what it means to be a book mentor and how you became a mentor to so many. One of the topics we're talking about in this summit is this whole idea of mentoring and why it matters. And a lot of you guys work in this space to essentially guide others to success.
Okay, so really for me, the whole idea of a book mentor is someone who just challenges and encourages the author, to think through those issues and approaches when it comes to marketing their book. In this role, I act as a sounding board for my authors. I like to serve as a source of, maybe wisdom and support when my authors need it most. And I find that coaching and mentoring often go hand in hand, even though, they are different. For example, I might give author some specific how-to advice, and in that role, I'm being their coach. But perhaps it's not advice that they need, it's just someone to support them as a cheerleader or someone to challenge them. I know that I've got one author who has more ideas than she knows what to do with when it comes to marketing her book. But when we get on the phone together, it's that being that sounding board, maybe to kick her in the pants if she needs it, when things aren't quite going the way she'd like them to. And the other half of that question, Claire, how did I become a mentor to so many? To be honest with you, I think it was purely accidental. It wasn't strategic. And I see myself in both roles. When somebody hires me as their coach, they don't realize it, but they often get the mentoring package if they're serious, if they're really serious and they want help. I often act, in the role of a therapist, because it's more than marketing help that they need. And then I sort of switch those hats. One time the mentor, one time the coach. So for me, they sort of go hand in glove. So I hope that answers your questions there.
Yeah, I love that, the switching of hats. And so, Eric, I think something that comes up that I want to ask you about is this idea that, you can work hard to guide someone else to reach, their own publishing dreams and give them confidence to do it on their own. But how do you do that while they're still relying on you? You're their guide, but you're trying to get them to be self-sufficient, or what is kind of the goal?
Yes, you just throw them into the deep end and just
see what happens.
Sink or swim, huh?
Sometimes you have to do that. A lot of times we do depend too much on others. So for example, clients or students of mine, if they do get too attached, what I do is I try to, before they get to that part of dependency, is by creating a marketing plan from stage one. And or even before that is obviously getting an idea of what they want. So you have to get with them, you have to talk with them, ask them what their goals are, what their aspirations are, and how their book is involved in what they want to do. What's the main purpose for their book? Because it's not just the book. There's a lot more to the book after that, So once I have an idea of what, those needs are, then I can set them up with some type of marketing plan. And I say, and I still hear this a lot out there in the author world, where I hear people say, I've heard a few people say that you should create a marketing plan. And I cringe because I want to hear more and more people are creating marketing plans, because without, planning, months and months ahead of time, your book is not going to have the success that you want it to have. So you really have to work on your platform and your marketing base. So by basically just, creating some sort of plan, not, I don't create it myself. We make it together, we create it together. And it's a sort of, like a blueprint, do this, do this, do this. And if this doesn't work, then do this. And if this doesn't work, then do this. So, things to kind of like alternate things of, if this doesn't work, well, there's lots of other ways of doing this. Let's try this. So when you see a marketing plan, you'll just say, oh yeah, I have to go by verbatim, this. It's not as stringent as that. It's like a living trust. It's living, it's workable, and it's changeable throughout. So, yeah, I think by doing that, you're creating that dependence on your clients or students relying on you all the time, because they have to understand that it's really up to them. And again, too, when the normal, when I say the normal author goes out there, the typical author goes out there, they think they're going to have this instant, success with their book. But there's a lot of work that goes into that book from the beginning. And if you don't have a plan, then how are you going to get to wherever you don't know where you're going? You're not going to end up getting there. So there's a lot of planning that goes involved, ahead of time. I don't know if that answers your question in a roundabout way, but.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So Dewan, I want to talk about sort of how you reached your dreams. How did you go about that? Did you have kind of a goal, like Eric is saying? Did you have this end goal in sight and work towards it step by step, or what did you do?
I think very similar to Susan, I found myself in a lot of ways accidentally in this kind of mentorship role. I was very deeply connected with music, and focusing on selling your art is great, but sometimes it's very difficult to monetize it. And that's why I ended up myself kind of in the digital marketing space, and realizing that with the business side and specifically in the nonfiction realm, where I kind of more focused now, people are able to solve problems and ultimately make money from solving those problems. And that's why I was very drawn to it initially. So I found myself on YouTube, just basically sharing my journey of my publishing company, and ultimately amassed a really quite a large audience. I've got about 30,000 views per month on YouTube, and just about 1.2 million views there. But ultimately it came down to me basically picking a niche. So in my case, it was helping passionate entrepreneurs get their message out there. So, if they're like a personal trainer, or they're a nutritionist, or a yoga teacher, or somebody that's got the skill set that they're trying to scale it online. I mean, online has become such an amazing platform for people to get your message out there, and more so be able to monetize it at scale instead of having to deal with the kind of one-on-one. So I myself picked my niche. I started developing a brand, but ultimately it was about building a relationship with my audience long-term and really committing to the I don't even want to call it the long-term value of the client. That sounds very salesy, but actually caring about the longevity of those people that were in either my funnel or my client's funnel. So again, like a personal trainer, it's not about selling a recipe book. It's about actually caring about that person eventually getting healthy. And that takes time, especially I'm just using the health and wellness niche as an example. A recipe book is not going to change somebody's life, but if they can resonate with somebody out there in the marketplace and build a long-term relationship, not only is that client going to get the result, but they're more likely to pay you long-term as well. And I found that to be very true in multiple niches. And that's why I kind of drove myself in that direction, where I saw so many authors and just really beautiful thought leaders out there that needed to get their message out there. And the digital marketing space can be very challenging because they're so focused on their art. So I kind of found myself in that position. I started to grow my business and became quite successful there. But the last kind of thing I can really say that helped me become successful was getting a mentor myself that has actually been there and done that. And joining a mastermind group of other like-minded entrepreneurs so that we could actually grow and struggle together. Because early on in my career, especially with the internet marketing space, I was trying to do everything myself. And it's as soon as I started being surrounded by other people that were growing in the same space, and then finding mentors that had already done it, did my time kind of accelerate. And I found myself now in that kind of role. And but really it was just picking a niche, building a relationship with my audience, and then surrounding yourself with other people that are kind of growing in the same space. I would give as kind of the 3 reasons why I kind of am where I am now.
I love that, right? The quote about whatever your success is the sum of the 5 people closest to you.
Absolutely.
Like
yeah.
Sean, talk to me a bit about sort of your work. You teach others to be more human with their business, right? Which is such an interesting idea, because I think a lot of us, especially, entrepreneurs, we find that we kind of sit by ourselves in rooms like robots sometimes, right? Yeah. And I don't know, talk to me about how you developed this specialty and what it really means.
Well, I think we probably all, because we're entrepreneurs and we're out there doing our own thing, I'm assuming we've had that experience where we've worked for somebody else and they've managed to eke out any sense of humanity in that experience of work. Yeah, it's like, you show up and you're not very well known in terms of what you do unless it's within your own group. The way that they compensate you, the way that the benefits, the way that the hierarchy set up. I mean, it's just a lot of different ways that traditional businesses are set up that aren't necessarily very human. And what we found is that and we have the millennials to thank for this conversation, is that there's more to work than work. Yes, I want to get paid for the work that I do, but I also want to have a sense of purpose in the work that I do. I want to feel like what I'm doing is meaningful. I want to have good relationships with the people that I'm working alongside. And those have always been available in terms of work, but it hasn't really been something that's been integrated into traditional kind of long-term, or not long-term, but your legacy businesses. And so we, like my colleagues here, we started out with a blog that's very hard to say, Switch and Shift. If you're not careful, you'll say something else. We are rebranding actually right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Switch and Shift was just a place for me and my co-founder, who has since moved on to some other things, to write about this human side of business and what does it look like from a management perspective, from building a business, from leading people. And it got sticky. And we're one of the 10 most read leadership blogs. I don't know if it's in the world or at least in the United States. Of course, how that's figured out is a little suspect, but we'll take the claim to fame. So it's what we're finding, interestingly enough, is a lot of our clients are in the IT space, and IT traditionally has been kind of the guys behind closed doors coding or maintaining servers or whatever it happens to be in. That's not IT anymore, and so you've got CIOs who are going, we've got to make this place where people can come and feel like they can relate to one another, and that non-IT folks can relate to the IT folks. So we do a lot of change work in that space, a lot of leadership development in that space, because nobody wants to be treated as a widget in somebody else's game.
Nobody wants to be treated as a widget in somebody else's game. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's a quote to use in your next blog, huh?
That's amazing. Yeah. So I want to ask Susan, I want to go back a little bit to what we were talking about at the beginning and understand a little bit more how you kind of create boundaries or think about these different roles of sort of mentor, therapist, and coach and how that works. I know you're switching hats a lot, but those are kind of different roles, right? How do you think of them differently?
I think of them in terms of, if I'm somebody's coach, they're usually paying me to be that in that role. And the mentorship is something, and that's sort of a fixed time frame where we might be working together. It might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be a year. If I then become the mentor to them, I see them, as I said, as an extension of that coaching, that they need something more than just the how-to advice that they're getting. I also like the fact, and Dwayne mentioned this, is the masterminding. I'm a real believer, advocate in masterminds. I've belonged to, I don't know, half a dozen. I'm currently in 3. And they are just invaluable when it comes to not only helping your peers, but also obviously them helping you, because I believe we all need to be mentored. Obviously, different stages in our life, we need different things. And I just love the idea of the masterminding. And I think, again, that is part of that mentor-mentee relationship, but under a different banner, so to speak. So I'm not sure that I've really answered your question, but
yeah.
masterminds
I'm wondering,
are very important. Sorry.
Sean, I'm wondering if I can take it back to you then and sort of connect to this to ask, when we're talking about this idea of sort of learning from each other, what kind of challenges or opportunities does the social age that we're living in raise when it comes to this? Learning from each other, either through a client relationship or through a peer relationship like a mastermind.
Yeah. Well, with online, there's a lot of noise. And there are a lot of people out there who advocating or pontificating or spreading the word about whatever their message is. And I think it's a wonderful thing, but it's hard to sift through all of that noise and find, one, people who are really credible and know what they're doing, and 2, people who can challenge and push you. I think that we all create a persona of who we are online. It's just part, we all do that even in our homes, right? But it's difficult to find those folks or those people. Sound like my grandfather all of a sudden. Those folks.
I say that word all the time.
it's difficult to find your tribe, we'll say. There we go, a little more contemporary. To find people who you can really connect with. But there are amazing platforms out there, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be, Dwayne is talking about Beatport. I'm a bedroom DJ, and I just kind of can follow different producers and DJs on Beatport, and it's like they don't know me, but I'm following their careers, and if I ever really wanted to be serious, I probably could reach out to someone and figure out how to do it. And I think that's the beauty of what online provides. And then with Susan and Eric talking about being that coach and mentor to people who have raised their hand and said, okay, I'm going to do this. But I need guidance. I can't rely on my own experience or my own knowledge, because in some cases I don't know what I don't know.
I think it's very, very true. We, many times do not know what we don't know, but it sounds like masterminds are a way to at least start hearing about what you don't know from other people's sort of highs and lows.
Yeah. And there's something really cool about connecting with people that are interested in similar topics, maybe in various stages of their career, and you're learning from them and they're learning from you. And that kind of give and take is, I think, an invaluable experience for people.
Dewan, sort of building off of this idea, when you help others to kind of find that, nomadic digital life of their digital nomad life of their dreams and such, how do you think about this idea of sort of masterminding or guiding one another in sort of a peer-to-peer way?
Yeah, and this is interesting because I'm going to also agree with Sean on the noise. Like early on in my career, I was very drawn to that, sit on the beach, passive income type of business. And I was fortunate enough to have an income stream that was fairly passive for quite some time. But I realized that I wasn't getting the other side of the coin, which was the impact and significance, and getting quite bored with it, where I know it sounds cliche, but money's not everything. And I think that's why I'm drawn to a lot of thought leaders, because it's not about that necessarily stacking the money, like maybe somebody in e-commerce as an example, not to judge that side of the world. I love that side too, but I think lack of clarity and people actually knowing what they want and then being grateful for what they have is kind of these two things that don't get talked about a lot. And then if you can get clear about what you want, focus on living intentionally and by design, and then finding other people that are also in that headspace, I think that's when you can really start accelerating your business and not even just your business, your life. And I agree, this noise thing, there's so much marketing and so much hype that gets you kind of pulled down the rabbit hole of business development or even lifestyle development. And but really just take a step back and get clear on like what would actually make you happy. And again, for most thought leaders, it really does come down to that impact and significance. And if you can surround yourself with people that are impacting in their own way, that's when the hyper growth happens. But if you're, I've been in the wrong type of mastermind groups where they were very money driven and not interested in the impact. And yes, you get growth, but you end up kind of splitting off and then you're kind of spinning your wheels. So I don't know if that answers the question really, but I think just really connecting with the right tribe, but being very serious about what you truly want. And then when you have it, being grateful for it. I mean, you don't need to grow a business for the sake of growing it. You should be growing it for impact and significance if that's your, that's your thing.
So just quickly, so when you've had those experiences where you're in a mastermind and you're getting this sort of peer-to-peer mentoring situation and you realize you're not moving forward, well, first of all, how did you realize, this wasn't the right fit, or, you're not moving in the direction you want to be moving?
Just being honest with yourself. I think all of us have our gut reaction of knowing if that's your tribe there, and just having that inner dialogue. I think sometimes people are just too afraid, right? Like they put on their mask, or they put on this, like you said, the marketing persona, Sean, of like who they think they should be rather than who they really feel they should be or who they actually want to be. And I don't think enough people trust their gut, or they get this kind of shiny object syndrome and feel like what they're doing is not significant enough. So then they get drawn to something else instead of stay in your lane. And again, just understanding why you're even doing what you're doing. And if it resonates with you, don't let somebody else pull you away. And I think the shiny object syndrome is often what you land yourself in a position where you don't even really want to be.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So Eric, earlier we were talking a little bit about this idea of kind of dependency, and we've talked a lot in this talk so far about mentors and guides and peers maybe serving as those mentors and guides and coaches. But can you kind of tell me a little bit more about how to prevent ourselves from falling into this dependency on the advice or guidance of others?
Yeah, obviously I'm probably not a total expert when I compare with the other fine folks here, but as far as how I've done it with some of my clients and teachers and students is basically to give them quantifiable achievements. So basically give them something that's achievable and small little things that they can achieve. And so each time they achieve it, then they get a little bit more, confidence in what they're doing. If you take too big of a bite, it's going to be overwhelming. So, for example, lots of new authors, they get totally overwhelmed with, old marketers. So they publish a book and they're like, oh my gosh, now what, right? So then they got like 20 marketers telling them what to do. Oh, I have to do this. You got to do this. You have to do this. You have to do this. And they're like, what? This is impossible, right? It's not impossible if you started 6 to 9 months to 12 months before and you basically created a foundation, right? So my thing is that you just create small little goals, and once they achieve each one, they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then they go to the next one and the next one and the next one. So that really helps at least feeling that they're like on a leash. So, and I don't want to be that way with, my clients and students. I don't want to feel that I have to be on them all the time. They have to, really when it comes down to the responsibility is them. And sure, I'm the kind of person that's not going to sugarcoat anything. I see something, I'm just going to say it. Obviously, I'm going to say it in a way that's not going to hurt anyone's feelings or whatever. But we have to be realistic. And I think a lot of authors, when they're, the first-time authors especially, because obviously it's their first go at it, they have, these goals and things that they think they're going to, do, which is great, awesome, but maybe a long-term thing. But you have to start slow, and people describe it as the long game, and that's what it is. It's and many folks have probably heard this phrase. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So it's actionable steps, consistently, and little steps at a time. And again, being realistic with whatever those goals are. You can't say, oh yeah, I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller. Let's say you're an indie author or a self-publisher. And let's say, you didn't put any effort into your book cover, or you didn't put any effort into typesetting your book or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a best-selling author, a New York Times best-selling author. Well, how? And what's your platform? Who knows you, right? So there's just a lot of things that go into these things. And so being realistic really kind of pulls things down, and you see the light a little brighter.
I like that. Dewan, what do you think in terms of this idea of not becoming too dependent on the advice of others?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I think it plays kind of two sides. I do believe that everybody needs a mentor in every level of their business, but the second that they become over dependent on just being spoon-fed information, I think is when they shift not even shift the blame, but like shift the responsibility of their business. And I think when I find people getting over dependent, they're shifting the responsibility on whether that's the course creator or the mentor or the influx of information. I think people need to just take responsibility for themselves and move the ball forward. I think you see a lot of like information overload that causes this dependence as well. I think people just need to put their blinders on, pick one lane, whether it's commit to one mentor or commit to one course or commit to one marketing plan, whatever it is. if they can commit to that, just take the responsibility, that will actually make them independent, because ultimately you are in control of your own business. Nobody else can change your business for you other than you. And the second you become dependent, it really just comes back to taking responsibility for your own actions, because that's all it is onto you. Like, you can have the best information to the exact same students, or to the same people can consume the exact same information. One will fail, one will succeed. It's not the information's fault. It's your responsibility in taking action on it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think the dependence thing really comes down to responsibility for yourself.
I love it. I love it. I think, yes, the whole idea of getting insight from others while at the same time being responsible for yourself is pretty much the key.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for this conversation. I'm hoping just in closing, you can each sort of share what you're working on these days and where people can learn more about you, maybe starting with you, Susan.
Yes, well, thank you for that opportunity. I'm working on increasing the book marketing, author marketing, helping authors find their niche market or their niche market, depending on which part of the world you're from.
Right.
And so, yes, and I'm more than happy to give any of your viewers a 15-minute introductory session, and they can find me at susan@avivapubs.com, and it's Aviva, AVIVAPUBS.com, susan@avivapubs.com.
And why Aviva?
Aviva actually is the name of my publishing company, Aviva Publishing, and it also happens to be my middle name, Susan Aviva. So how about that?
Awesome. And Sean, what about you? What are you really focused on these days, and where can people find out more about your work?
So I am working on, in fact, next Thursday, next week, I turn in the proposal for my second book. So I can certainly understand a lot of what Eric and Susan have talked about. And we are, as I mentioned, rebranding Switch and Shift. It will be called Work IQ. So getting everything lined up for that is just very, very time consuming, and we're a small team. You can read, I have a weekly column on Inc.com called Positive Business. So if you just Google Sean Murphy, Inc.com, you'll land there on their site. And certainly go to our blog, switchandshift.com, for great thoughts on what does it mean to create a more human workplace.
I love it. And Eric, what about you? What are you really focused on these days, and where can people find out more about you and your work?
Well, folks can read about me or contact me just by searching for ericvanderhoop.com. Actually, that's just my website. So yeah, but if they put in my name, they'll find like hundreds of references to my name. Yeah, I've been in the market since 1999, 2000. So, I started off with affiliate marketing and internet marketing. Woo! So I knew all the old-time gurus. Well, they're not old, the Frank Kerns and yeah, so those guys back there. So anyways, I just finished up doing a publishing summit, publishingsuccesssummit.com. Actually, Susan was one of the presenters, and I interviewed 84 speakers. So I totally respect what you're doing there. I understand how hard it is and the logistics of it. So don't ask me how I did 86. But so what am I doing now? Basically, I just continually help authors build a platform and transform their message into a best-selling book. And I've really concentrated on showing people or teaching people how to put up their books on Amazon months ahead of time. So just like traditional publishers, they're able to get their books up on Amazon. Well, there is an unofficial way of doing it. And I basically have a blog on my website that explains basically step-by-step how they can get their book up. They can get the whole description of their book. They can get the book cover up on that, everything like 6 to 8 to 9, 12 months before the book's even published. And Amazon does not have an official policy on that. So and everyone that has questions on that end up on my website because they have questions on it. And
wow.
So, yeah, it's crazy. There is, let me just be clear on this. There is pre-ordering for KDP, for Kindle books. They have an official policy for it. But for print books, there is none. So, but yeah, so I help people with that. And like I said, you have to start marketing months and months ahead of time. So knowing how to put your book up there is so important, because your book can actually appear in front of and beside other traditionally published books. So it's a really good traffic generation, and it just really gets eyes on your books. So that's what I've been doing.
It's really interesting. And Duwan, what about you? What are you really focused on these days, and where can people learn more about you?
Best place to find me is on YouTube. I put out all of my content for free. I don't have a course. I don't have a funnel, like an info funnel or anything like that. My main focus is my marketing agency. Really just helping thought leaders that have a high ticket offer dominate their niche. And I really focus on more like high ticket sales for people. So people that have larger funnels that are already set up. So anybody that's looking for information, hit my YouTube. That's absolutely the best place to find it. If you have any questions, I'm open book. But yeah, the marketing agency for me, because I really want to help these thought leaders that have really solidified themselves in the marketplace. Let them focus on what they do best, whether it's, teaching yoga or if it's, personal training. I'd rather them focus on being the subject matter geniuses that they are and help them with their traffic and marketing on the back end. So, if that sounds like a fit for you guys, my YouTube is the best place to go.
Awesome. Well, I'm so grateful to you all for being here. It was really such a treasure to talk to you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.